All right, let's dive into a story that's playing out all around us in pretty much every field and forest. It's this incredible drama about survival, about loneliness, and about evolution happening at super speed. We're going to look at what happens to plants when their world, well, when it starts to shrink. So it all really comes down to this one very simple and honestly kind of relatable question. What happens when a plant can't find a mate? I know, it sounds a little bit like a soap opera for the plant kingdom, but for a ton of species out there, this is a very real and very serious survival crisis. And the root of this problem, as all the research points out, is our changing planet. As we build things in farmland, we break up natural habitats. So what used to be these huge connected communities of plants are now becoming little isolated islands. And that's the core of it right there. It's not just about having less space to put down roots. For a plant, a smaller world is a much lonelier world. And this isolation forces them to fight a war on two fronts. One is the immediate problem of just finding a partner, and the other is a much sneakier threat, one that's hiding inside their own DNA. Okay, so let's tackle that first front, the hidden genetic problem. The best way to think about it is like inherited baggage that every single population carries with it from its ancestors. Now, the scientific term for this baggage is genetic load. Basically, it's just the collection of all these potentially harmful little genetic glitches that build up in a group over generations. And in a big, healthy population, no big deal. Those mutations usually stay hidden and don't really cause any trouble. But, and this is the key, when a population shrinks, that dating pool gets really small. This leads to inbreeding, which is just mating between relatives, and that's what rips open the inherited baggage. All of a sudden, all those hidden harmful mutations are exposed, and that can seriously weaken the whole population. Okay, so that's the long-term historical problem. Let's talk about the second front, which is a much more immediate, right here, right now crisis for these plants, actually finding a partner. And this challenge has a name: pollen limitation. It is exactly what it sounds like. A plant just doesn't make as many seeds as it could because not enough pollen is getting to its flowers. It is, for all intents and purposes, a dating crisis in a very, very small town where there just aren't many options around. And you can really see the contrast here. In a big, dense population, think of it like a bustling city of flowers. It's super easy for pollinators like bees to just hop from plant to plant, making sure everyone gets what they need. But in a small, sparse population, which is more like a forgotten little village of flowers, it's way harder for those pollinators to even find them, and that just tanks the chances of successful reproduction. All right, so plants are getting hit from both sides: bad genes from the past and no partners in the present. It seems totally hopeless. But this is where the story gets really interesting. When they're faced with extinction, some plants evolve this desperate, last-ditch backup plan. They become self-reliant. And the scientists who study this said it directly. All of these pressures, the genetics, the lack of bees, they all push plants toward this one clever but very risky solution. They figure out how to make seeds all by themselves. It's something called reproductive assurance, and they do it through self-pollination. So let's just walk through how this works. First, the plant can't get enough pollen from others. Second, that means it's at risk of producing zero offspring, which is, the end of the line, evolutionarily speaking. So as an emergency measure, it evolves the ability to pollinate itself. And just like that, reproduction is guaranteed. But, and this is a really big but, it comes at a huge genetic cost. And this really lays out the whole trade-off perfectly. On the one hand, the pro is massive. The plant can guarantee it'll have offspring even if it's completely alone. But the cons, wow, they are severe. Self-pollination is basically the ultimate form of inbreeding. It exposes all of that harmful genetic load we talked about, and it shrinks the genetic variation that a population needs to adapt to new challenges in the future. And this brings us to what might be the most shocking discovery in this whole story. This isn't some slow motion process happening over millions of years. We are watching plants evolve in fast forward. Yeah, the really critical takeaway here is that these shifts can happen incredibly fast. The pressure from losing habitats and pollinators is so intense that some plants are being forced to make these massive evolutionary leaps in just a handful of generations. We are literally watching evolution happen in real time, and it's being driven by what we're doing to the planet. So why should any of us care about the love lives of plants? Well, for one, it's just an amazing story of resilience. Nature finds a way, right? But it's also a massive warning sign. This short-term fix might lead to some really bad long-term consequences for our ecosystems. And that, in turn, affects biodiversity and the stability of the natural world that all of us rely on.
Which leaves us with this final kind of haunting question. By evolving this incredible strategy to survive the crisis they face today, are these plants also backing themselves into a genetic corner for tomorrow? Is this amazing story of survival actually a journey toward an evolutionary dead end? It's a question that really forces us to think about the long-lasting echoes of our impact on the world around us.